What if we told you that a single government decision could add $14,000 to the price of your future home, derail billion-dollar industries, and plunge North America into a full-blown trade war? Again. Welcome to the 2025 Lumber War. It's not just about planks and plywood anymore. This time, it's about power, politics, pensions, and the very foundation of the housing economy. So before you scroll away, ask yourself, how do international tariffs, Canadian pension funds, and Washington politics decide whether you can afford to build your next home? The U.S. and Canada are once again at loggerheads, and the battleground is softwood lumber. But this time, the stakes are higher, the timing more critical, and the fallout potentially historic. The trigger. President Trump's bold move to slap a 25% tariff on Canadian softwood lumber imports in early 2025. It's a move aimed at reshaping the very framework of North American trade, and the ripple effects were almost immediate. Weyerhaeuser, one of America's timber powerhouses, felt the pain almost instantly. Their Q2 profits plummeted by half, from $173 million to $87 million. That's not a slow drip, it's a financial guillotine. The company openly blamed tariff uncertainty, slumping demand, and rising input costs. Meanwhile, Canadian officials, clearly caught off guard, began playing a different kind of chess, threatening to wield Canada's $1 trillion pension stake in U.S. markets as a bargaining chip. A move that has more weight than most people realize. By the end of July, U.S. senators were scrambling across the northern border, racing to reboot negotiations before a hard and fast August 1st deadline slammed shut. The energy in the market was frantic. The media called it a lumber war, but this was never just about wood. This was a full-on collision between economic muscle and geopolitical maneuvering. And as the dust settled, both nations found themselves staring down a rapidly approaching cliff. This tariff isn't just some throwaway penalty. It stacks on top of a pre-existing 14.54% combo of anti-dumping and countervailing duties. Add it all up, and by July 25th, the total burden on Canadian lumber reached nearly 40%. Let that sink in, 40% in added costs. That's not trade policy, that's economic warfare. And the U.S. Department of Commerce wasn't done. They finalized a fresh 20.56% anti-dumping rate on 2023 Canadian lumber, signaling they were going full throttle, no apologies. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick made it clear, the August 1st deadline was non-negotiable. No delays. No exemptions. No loopholes. Weyerhaeuser CEO, surprisingly, applauded the move, claiming it was overdue and desperately needed to protect U.S. mills from what they describe as unfair Canadian subsidies. But if you zoom out, this is a dangerous game of economic brinkmanship. And average American businesses. They are already feeling the heat. Let's go back to Weyerhaeuser. In July, they dropped the bombshell, profits were down 50%. Revenue dipped only slightly, but investor confidence tanked. They expect another $60 million drop in Q3 profits. The cause? Declining demand, ballooning supply, and raw material costs rising from the tariff chaos. OSB prices and lumber rates have lost momentum. Builder confidence is eroding. Investors are anxious. Still, Weyerhaeuser isn't taking it lying down. They are acquiring more timberland, expanding engineered wood production, and even approved a $100 million stock buyback program. They are playing offense. But here's the problem, no amount of strategy can fix slumping demand if America's housing market is crumbling beneath it. And crumble it has. In May, U.S. single-family home sales posted their sharpest fall in 3 years. Why? Rising interest rates, escalating lumber prices, and overall market fear. At the same time, housing inventory ballooned. Builders slammed the brakes, waiting to see where prices land. The projections? Grim? Some estimate that tariffs could add up to $14,000 to the cost of a single new home by 2027. Let's say that again, $14,000 more for the same home. That's not just a number, it's the difference between qualifying for a mortgage and getting locked out. Between a young family's first home or continued renting. And it's not just the home buyer paying the price. The entire construction supply chain is under strain. From sawmills to distributors to builders, the costs are rippling out like a stone in a still pond. Lumber producers are warning of uncertainty and rising input prices. Groups like the U.S. Lumber Coalition argue that stiffer duties are necessary to level the playing field, but even they admit the collateral damage is real. Construction is slowing. Margins are shrinking. Jobs are at stake. So how is Canada responding? With something far more powerful than counter-tariffs. Leverage. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc pointed to Canada's $1 trillion investment in U.S. pension markets. That stake grows by $100 billion annually. And while there's been no explicit threat to pull capital, the message is loud and clear: Canada holds more cards than it's letting on. Prime Minister Mark Carney made another thing clear: he won't be bullied into an unfavourable deal. Canadian jobs come first. Ottawa is now seriously considering something it hasn't touched in decades: lumber export quotas. That's been a U.S. demand for years, but this time, Canada might play ball. Why? Because U.S. senators, both Democrat and Republican, have been flying north, urging a managed trade deal under USMCA rules. And the shift in trade flows already happening. In just 12 months, the percentage of Canadian lumber exports heading to the U.S. dropped from 78% to 68%. The rest is now heading to Europe and Asia. Canada is diversifying fast. Meanwhile, Washington is doubling down on the idea of a domestic timber revival. Trump's administration has pushed to increase federal harvest quotas by 25%, including opening up areas that were once protected by the 2001 roadless rule. But here's the truth no one wants to admit: this boost adds less than 1% to the national timber pool. It's a political gesture more than an economic solution. Trying to fix the lumber crisis with domestic logging is like trying to put out a wildfire with a squirt gun. It looks good, but it doesn't move the needle. In places like Skarnia County, once booming with sawmills and now ghost towns, the idea of revival is appealing. But time isn't on their side. Even if trees are felled today, it'll take years before logs are processed and homes are built. The bright spot: innovation. U.S. mills are investing heavily in automation and robotics to cut costs and stay competitive. At the same time, Canadian lumber companies are opening operations in the southern U.S. closer to pine forests and transport routes. It's a smart hedge: sidestep tariffs, shorten supply chains, and stay in the U.S. market. But here's the irony: while these Canadian companies settle into Georgia and Mississippi, Washington still claims they are the enemy. The truth is far more complex. This entire saga is more than a trade spat. It's a showdown over who controls the future of housing affordability, economic independence, and global market positioning. Will Canada's pension leverage force Washington back to the table? Will export quotas finally end decades of back-and-forth tension? Can U.S. logging policies realistically support a homebuilding industry in free fall? Or are we witnessing the early stages of a much broader trade realignment that could affect autos, agriculture, and energy next? Here's what we know: this isn't ending anytime soon. Weyerhaeuser's struggles are just the beginning. And for American families hoping to build, this clash may be what finally prices them out of their dreams. So what happens now? That's the million-dollar question. Will builders pass the costs on to buyers, or just stop building altogether? Will environmental groups successfully block expanded logging, even as home prices soar? Can North America find a compromise before markets lose faith completely? Let us know what you think. Is Canada's trillion-dollar pension fund really a threat, or just clever posturing? Should the US cut more red tape to allow faster logging, or double down on forest protections? And be honest: if you knew your next home would cost $14,000 more, would you still build? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take. And if you made it this far, respect. You clearly care about the economic future of our continent. So do us a favor, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Because this isn't the last trade battle we'll be covering, and the next one might hit even closer to home. Stay curious. Stay informed. And as always, keep your hands on the wheel, and your eyes on the road. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.